This video has been generously sponsored by Campfire Write. More than 150,000 writers use Campfire to organize, improve, and showcase their writing. And when you're putting together a sprawling narrative with a plethora of characters with a plethora of goals and motivations, it might become necessary to jot down a few notes. Organize your stories with Campfire Write, with over a dozen modules, like character sheets, timelines, and relationship webs, one of my personal favorites, and a manuscript editor that lets you reference your notes while you write. Everything you create is private, safely stored in the cloud, and shareable to collaborate with friends. And this edition is really cool. Improve your craft with Campfire Learn, their hub of educational resources. Showcase your projects in Campfire Explore, share your work with the community, and build a following, something highly advised for indie publishers. Choose what parts of your project to share, and craft a homepage to present your story. Create an account for free and enjoy access to everything right from the start. If you're working on larger projects in Campfire Write, you only have to pay for the features you need. Start a subscription for as low as 25 cents per month, or pay a one-time price with Campfire's a la carte options. Plus, Campfire just released their offline desktop app, with even more updates on the way, like new modules, a mobile app, and the ability to monetize your writing in Explore. Write better stories faster with Campfire. Click the link in the description below to learn more. Now, on to the video. When writing a story, every character needs a role. A hero to slay the dragon, a mentor to teach the hero, a woman to stay in the kitchen. Put them in their place, sweetheart. There is an infamous piece of advice among creative writers that's commonly known as kill your darlings, a phrase that often cuts deep since it involves cutting unnecessary story elements that the writer may have significant investment in. In other words, all those hours you spent putting together that super cool charismatic skeleton mage will be completely worthless if you can't fit him into the narrative. And by fitting him into the narrative, I don't just mean dropping him in there because he's cool. A character, ideally, needs to do more than just exist. In fact, this is often posed as pesky little conflict among creatives, developing cool new character concepts versus finding a purpose for each character. And that brings us to the question of the hour. How do you give your cool character purpose? Well, there are several ways. Writing is a creative process after all, but the basic principle is probably best explained by the writing trope known as the five-man band. The five-man band has easily become one of the most iconic writing tropes in modern storytelling, especially during the era when manga consistently stomped Marvel and DC into the dust. But what makes this trope so effective is the help it provides giving characters purpose. And it gives characters purpose by assigning them a role. While this trope is prevalent in anime, another excellent yet interesting example of the five-man band many in the West might recognize is the legendary Avatar: The Last Airbender. Your standard five-man band consists of 5 major roles: the hero, the lancer, the smart guy, the big guy, and the heart. Now, let's take a quick look at the main characters of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang is the young, fun-loving avatar, a powerful being capable of bending all 4 elements to his will with proper training, and who is tasked with saving the world from the evils of the Fire Nation. Katara is the kind-hearted waterbender from a small tribe. Sokka is the older brother to Katara, an honorable if inexperienced warrior who lacks any kind of bending ability. Later, a young girl named Toph joins the team, a blind yet incredibly powerful earthbender. Throughout most of their journey, they conflict with a firebender named Zuko, exiled prince of the Fire Nation. A character whose initial quest is to hunt the Avatar with the hope that he can regain his lost honor and finally return to his homeland. However, Prince Zuko loses heart with this journey and later becomes an ally to Avatar Aang and his group. The hero role in this particular tale is of course played by Aang. This is probably the most obvious one since even in a 5-man band, your central protagonist is usually the main hero of the story, the one who leads the main journey. It's this character that is destined to fight the big bad evil guy, the knight who fights the dragon. Avatar Aang, being the hero of the world tasked with keeping the balance between the 4 nations and harmony between mortals and spirits, easily takes this role. That being said, the hero might be the simplest role to assign and the most recognizable, but in a 5-man band, it's also the most important, for reasons I'll explain in a bit. Next is the Lancer. The Lancer plays contrast to the hero's personality. Rival might be a fair descriptor, but isn't necessarily the case. In the case of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko best plays this role. role. Where Aang is upbeat, Zuko is stoic. Where Aang leans towards optimism, Zuko leans towards pessimism. Where Aang flees his obligations, Zuko embraces his. And considering Zuko's initial quest places him in direct conflict with Aang specifically, he also fills the position as rival. And speaking of the rival, it's this contrast nature that makes things so interesting within the group dynamic, since it prevents said group from becoming a cozy little bubble, where other members of the group might agree with the hero or, at worst, respectfully disagree. The Lancer will most likely be the one to call out the hero. However, this isn't always the case, and it isn't the case in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because Zuko joins the Aang gang so late, much of Aang's major opposition within the group comes from the team's big guy, Toph. The role of the big guy is the powerhouse. Their focus is pure strength. In fact, when it comes to raw power, they're normally the hardest hitter on the team, even more so than the hero or the Lancer. And considering Toph moonlights as a fighter where she effortlessly takes down men 3 times her size, it's clear that Toph was made for this role. Although Sokka does, in part, play opposition to Katara and Aang at the start of their journey, Toph contrasts against the entire group. Her personality quells Sokka, her aggressive nature causes friction with Katara, and perhaps most importantly, Toph is an earthbender, the element that stands opposite to Aang's airbending. As the series progresses, Toph becomes the go-to character for situations that require a less delicate touch. And speaking of Katara, her compassion and personality makes her an excellent example of the heart. The heart plays the emotional glue for the team, and in the realm of emotion, it's usually a woman who best plays the role of emotional caretaker. Perhaps then it's no coincidence that the role is so often played by a woman that another name for the heart is the chick. Cry louder, PC Police. Katara plays the role so well. Even her other team members sometimes refer to her as Team Mom. In fact, it's her role as emotional caretaker that makes her so protective of Aang, and that notion places her in conflict with Toph. Where Toph prefers to care for her own needs, Katara places everyone else's needs above her own. Where Toph freely dishes out insults, Katara prefers compliments. And where Katara mentors Aang with gentle guidance, Toph chooses to mentor Aang with a far more aggressive touch. But ultimately, while everyone can pull their weight in a battle, Katara is the most effective at maintaining team morale. Last but certainly not least is the team's smart guy, which is taken by Sokka. The smart guy's role is obvious, to be smart, but what smart exactly means can vary, especially since the other members of the team are likely intelligent to some capacity. In most cases, the smart guy is the nerd or the wizard or the hacker, the guy who knows things. He can also make a writer's life much easier, since a writer's whole job is to know things, and if a writer needs a quick way of introducing some background lore or quickly explaining a concept without setting the group on a field trip, giving the knowledge of the smart guy is an easy way to do that. But Sokka isn't your typical smart guy. Sokka is more the masculine warrior type than the sensitive nerdy type, so he doesn't really play knowledge keeper. However, Sokka proves that nerds don't have a monopoly on the smart guy role. As mentioned, Sokka is a warrior, and part of being an effective warrior is the ability to develop strategy. In other words, Sokka isn't so much knowledgeable as he is clever. So, when the Aang gang need a plan of attack, it's Sokka who effectively provides. Sokka is a brave warrior, a rap battle expert, gets all the ladies, and is the team's smart guy. So start lifting heavy, nerds. Just being super smart isn't good enough anymore. A hero to lead them, a lancer to challenge them, a big guy to fight for them, a smart guy to provide them with knowledge and perspective, and a heart to keep them together. Of course, the 5-man band isn't the only dynamic a team can have, but it does highlight the 2 main principles one should keep in mind when adding a character to a story. The first is asking, what role would the character play? Where does your super cool skeleton mage fit within the group? Is he the foil for the hero, the powerhouse, the keeper of knowledge, or maybe he's a villain? Which brings us to the next point. Remember when I said that the hero was the most important role? Not just because we need a plucky protagonist for our story, but because ideally, a hero's companions and even the villain should reflect some aspect of the hero. We see this most with the Lancer, but the 5-man band highlights a group dynamic, and as mentioned before, each character should have a purpose, and when your story centers around a group, each member of that group needs an area of expertise. Otherwise, you might just go full Last Jedi. Never go full Last Jedi. While the Lancer acts as a mirror to the hero, like Zuko does to Aang, the big guy might overshadow the hero's raw destructive power, but lack his nobility. Toph is powerful, but isn't above lying and stealing for her own selfish reasons. The smart guy might be more knowledgeable than the hero, but lack one of the hero's other major strengths. Sokka is a better strategist than Aang, but lacks his optimistic perspective. The heart might have greater maturity than the hero, but lacks the bravery to determination, or the talent of the hero. Katara has a strong emotional core. She's far more mature than most of the members on her team, and can bring a level head to tense situations, but she lacks Aang's raw talent, at times to her frustration. In short, each of the hero's companions has a unique strength and therefore a purpose within the story, and their particular expertise might even tower over the hero's expertise. Yet, each companion also possesses a failing that often runs opposite to the nobility or strength of the hero, and each failing reminds us exactly why the protagonist is both the hero of our story and the leader of the group. To take this back to anime for a moment, companions serving as a reflection to the hero is rather overtly done in the legendary series One Piece. Luffy is the series' hero, determined to take the crown as Pirate King. Zoro is the Lancer and of course serves as Luffy's foil. Usopp is a clever trickster but also a notorious liar. This is directly opposed to Luffy's rather radical honesty. Nami is a master thief who doesn't form friendships easily, and when she does, her loyalty is often questionable, even to people she likes. This is directly opposed to Luffy's open willingness to call others his friends, coupled with a nigh unwavering dedication. And Sanji's kind of a man whore, which is opposed to Luffy's chaste hero status. Unfortunately, Aang's primary antagonist throughout the series was either Zuko, Zuko's sister Azula, or various Fire Nation officers. Fire Lord Ozai was lightly characterized, but merely served as the face of the Fire Nation, and never became a villain to which Aang formed a personal, emotional connection. But Western media is rife with heroes and their villainous reflections. There's a reason why the phrase, "we're not so different, you and I," has become such a cliche often uttered by the villain, I might add. The Joker is the malevolent chaos to Batman's benevolent order. Darth Vader is the dark reflection of the heroic Luke Skywalker, a constant reminder of how even great men can fall to evil. And even one of my personal favorites, Samurai Jack, has Jack embark on an arduous quest to slay the evil demon Aku, shape-shifting master of darkness who unleash an unspeakable evil. Aku is the ultimate evil to Jack's ultimate good. As mentioned before, the five-man band isn't the only dynamic. It just so happens to be one of many answers to one of the most daunting questions in creative writing. Where can I fit this character into the narrative? Whether your story revolves around a single hero or a group of heroes, a character must always have a role to play. Would you think up an edgelord prince whose entire family was killed by his brother or something, leaving only him behind to swear a blood oath of vengeance? But you're writing a wholesome story about unicorns and friendship. It's probably time to, quote, kill some darlings. On an off note, this is probably why classes in Dungeons & Dragons have remained a long-lived tradition. And like many traditions, the practice survives, while the purpose of the tradition has long faded from memory. Perhaps the reason why rigid character classes have remained, as opposed to character classes who specialize into a role as they play, classes let each player define their role, and lets each other player know what roles have been taken, and allow the dungeon master to plan a game centered around the team's capabilities. Embrace tradition indeed. In the end, giving characters purpose follows the same principle as every other aspect of creative writing. Within the context of the narrative, every major aspect should exist for a reason. How does your character affect the story? Aang is the Avatar, a hero who sacrifices to save others right from the start of the show. Katara was the only one capable of calming Aang's rage after his friend had been kidnapped. Toph invents metal bending, something previously thought impossible, making her a devastating opponent to most of Aang's enemies. Sokka helps defend the Air Temple from the Fire Nation, provides valuable insight against the Fire Nation's siege of the Northern Water Tribe, an essential figure in the attack on the Fire Nation's capital on the Day of Black Sun. A good character significantly affects the narrative and the world around them, specifically to the point where their removal would significantly damage the story. A meaningful narrative lets nothing go to waste, least of all its characters. It's the writer's skill that paints the illusion of reality. Every major element we see must have a purpose, given a role to play, a lesson to teach or message to convey, something that reflects the hero like each member of Team Avatar, or echoes the heart of the story like Yoda from Star Wars, who may show us that the Force isn't about physical strength, but at the same time, also teaches us that the essence of heroism itself doesn't come from crude matter, but one's spirit, one's virtue. And by that virtue, the hero can topple empires, inspire the hopeless, and save lives. As Neil Gaiman once said, we're taking people who do not exist and things that didn't happen to those people in places that aren't, and we're using those things to communicate true things to each other. Art imitates life, but it isn't life. Life is chaos, and stories find truth amidst that chaos. They give us an ordered narrative that poses a question and leads us to an answer, and that answer leads us to meaning. In the world of creative writing, meaning is given by giving elements elements, and especially characters, a role that shifts the story in a significant way. In a story, a structured narrative, every character, every major element must have purpose. And the nature of a narrative can best be summarized in the words of one wise old turtle: there are no accidents.